And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bashing us, him.
All right, attention to roll call. What's up, everybody? It's coming to you live from the Jersey Shore. What's going on, Marlon? How you doing today? Just a little update on Eric before we do that. Speaking back and forth with Eric, still in the healing process. Probably gonna need another week, I would think. You know, his voice is still hurting, but he's recovered, walking around. He's doing well, exercising. But he's definitely still a little beat up. So we'll keep you updated as we get more info. So, well, what's up, Marlon? What are you doing, brother?
Yo, morning, everyone. Morning, chat. Yeah, it's a hell of a hot week over here. So I hope everyone is staying hydrated and staying as cool as you can if you're out there on a foot post protecting billionaires, you know, or facilitating the wedding of a billionaire.
Well, what's your thermostat set to? Can we know?
Yeah.
Are you compliant?
Yeah. Keep it at 80 degrees. You know, give me a break.
Yeah. Mondani. So for those of you that aren't in New York, Mondani said that he wants every private business and home to set their thermostats to 78 degrees. Absolutely ridiculous, you know. And on, you know, the obvious question that everyone's asking now that it's come to light, and I think Jessica Tisch has slipped up 3 times prior to it actually be breaking to becoming news, saying that there was going to be a wedding in Madison Square Garden. Everyone knew it was going to be Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. You know, everyone's asking the question, what's the temperature going to be set at Madison Square Garden? And everybody knows it ain't going to be 78, you know. And the funnier thing is the Post actually was trolling Mondani. They went to City Hall and they went around with a temperature gauge, and there was nowhere that they found that it was actually 78 degrees in City Hall. So, you know, of course, it's rules for thee, not for me. But in the hallways of City Hall, where security stand, where the cops stand, where, you know, us plebes, the working class, the blue collars work, and it was 80 degrees. So, you know, you could sweat while they stay cool.
Yep. Yeah, and the thing is, we're talking people who waste money on all kinds of nonsense instead of doing what they should be doing with that money, which is fixing the infrastructure of New York State. And that infrastructure should include the power grid, you know, especially if they plan to build these chip factories upstate. Where exactly are you going to find the power to do that upstate while powering downstate, which reminder has 75% of the population in New York State. So these politicians just annoy me, bro. You know, with their stupidity. You know, you have all these decades to fix stuff like that. You know, or you know, Hochul's been there since like what, at least 5 years now. You know, have you started breaking ground on improving the infrastructure of the state? No, but you want us to sacrifice our lifestyle. You have money for everything else in this state, every other BS, but you don't have money to fix up the state and to do something that would actually benefit not only your agenda, which is all this microchips and surveillance capitalism, right? But it would also benefit citizens in that we won't have to worry about power outages. And keep in mind, there have been power outages already all throughout the city, including Manhattan. So just annoys me.
Don't start spreading misinformation here earlier, right? We're not going to start spreading misinformation that 911 was holding 988 EMS jobs yesterday, and 4th of July weekend hasn't even started. You know, we gotta pretend like everything's good. You know, we talk a lot about the politicians, a lot, but you know, I don't think we talk enough about humiliation rituals. And here is Chief Timmy Bodette willingly engaging in another humiliation ritual. I mean, I don't know. This is basically like, to me, when I watch this, I'm like, this is someone building their resume. This is a resume building activity, basically telling the wealthy and telling the managers that have already got close to the wealthy that I'm willing to do absolutely anything. Anything you ask, I will do. Your wish is my command. Here's Timmy Bodette. This just comes out of NYPD News this morning. And obviously, cops across the city are already outraged about this. They're like, is this guy kidding me? And no, this is not kidding you. This was the knee in 2020. This was the mask wearing, the COVID pushing, the COVID mandate vaccine pushing. This is these guys. They are willingly sell their soul, their integrity, and they have no problem partaking in his humiliation rituals. Listen to this. He's outside of Madison Square Garden this morning.
I heard you calling on the megaphone. You need to calm down. Why do you gotta be so mean? I knew you were trouble. I knew it. This weather feels like a cruel summer. Welcome to New York.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think about that, Marlon? Like, do you think it's necessary? Does it help anything in public relations? And I mean, obviously, we know what the cops think, but like, what are your thoughts on doing this? This is like ridiculous to me.
Well, I'm glad he's having fun at it, but it does look silly. You know, he's becoming he's kind of becoming a character with that microphone. You know, he's almost become a I don't know, I guess maybe an NYPD celebrity with that microphone, so he's kind of leaning into it. But I mean, I'm glad he's having fun, but it does look pretty silly.
I mean, I think it's bigger than that, though. I think it's a legitimate humiliation ritual. Like, I don't even think it's silly. I think it's disturbing. I think from somebody that, like, especially like us, like we've taken a stand against nonsensical things. I think we have a diminished, demoralized New York City Police Department. And what Timmy and the NYPD are trying to do is run a public relations campaign. Everything's fine, that we're having fun. Let's all have fun. The police department's in great shape. And the fact of the matter is, it isn't. You know, people are furious and coming into and we're just starting the summer off, and you have guys and girls that are completely overworked, completely exhausted, and they have zero faith in the leadership of the city and the leadership of the NYPD. And Timmy's selling the message that it's the exact opposite. Everybody's cheery. We're all having fun. Everything's good. We just was sent a rap video yesterday. Well, it was a rap song, actually, that was made. I put artwork with it. I'm not sure who made it. Obviously, it was, I believe the song is AI, but, you know, it took the brain of an NYPD cop, obviously, to write the lyrics, and I thought it was brilliant. Definitely play it in a second, but everything that was said during that song is like, it's a lot of things that we talk about on here, and it flies in the face of all of the messaging coming out of City Hall, coming out of the NYPD leadership, and coming out of and completely contradict videos like this. Hold on, it's gonna take me a second to get it up. You there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm there. You putting up the video?
Yeah, give me a second.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, good morning, guys in the chat. I see everyone's starting to come in. Good morning, Terry Manine, Detective Nolan, Snake Plissken, Joe Roscoe, Amazing Ant, Cobbs. I told you so back when. Good morning, Anthony. Jack Greco, good to see you again. Black Hole Sun. That seems like a new name. But yeah, you know, it's gonna be hot out there. So you think Timmy's gonna be actually out there today?
Well, I think you know, it's definitely like it's cooler down here by the shore. I'm not gonna lie. So, but it's humid here today, as opposed to yesterday, and it was blistering when I left Staten Island, it was hot as hell. I got down to the shore. Obviously, you get the nice cool breeze. It's like 10 degrees cooler. But today, I could only imagine what that city, the humidity is in Manhattan. And, you know, I think everything gets exasperated inside in Manhattan. You know, when it's freezing out, the wind blows through the buildings. When it's hot out, the humidity almost gets trapped inside. So, yeah, I think he'll be out while it's cooler, you know, even though the humidity is real high already and it's hot. You know, like to see him at the you know, the peak of the heat, 12 to, you know, 12 in the afternoon to 4:30. And you know, we're gonna get into that, like what's being asked of NYPD cops to do, not only for the Taylor Swift wedding, but also, you know, throughout this whole weekend of details and what's already been occurring with, you know, where they're working extended hours, their days off are getting stripped, they're getting asked to come in on their vacation to do, you know, we need you to do a favor, come in on your vacation, waive your vacation and come work for us. And, you know, we'll take care of you later, kid. You know, and obviously everyone knows that that's not going to happen. It's a department in decline, in serious decline. And it really is coming to a head here. So this song comes out. This song comes out yesterday. Like I said, we put the artwork to it, but we didn't create it. I don't know who did. And again, obviously it's AI, but it's not, you know, AI didn't create the words, you know, and you're going to hear it clear as day. And it contradicts literally everything that's been coming out of this department for the last 5 years. And it just shows how rank and file cops, and that doesn't mean just police officers. It means, you know, detectives, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, even, probably even some DIs, deputy inspectors and inspectors, what they feel about what's occurring in the NYPD right now. So that this is called, I titled it The Detail Life. I don't know what the title of it is, but take a listen to it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. 175 years, you think they know the drill. Planning every detail, now they're winging it still. Got a million uniforms, radios on blast, but somehow every operation's built at the last. Finest message 1 says, everybody go left. Finest message 2 says, actually, that's incorrect. Amendment to the amendment, then another one drops. By sunrise, nobody knows where the confusion stops. They call it a detail, we call it a guess. Everybody's asking, who's running this mess? Maps keep changing, posts rearranged by the 4th revision. Nothing stays the same. Commissioner said a month ago, 12-hour tours all week. 4th of July, World Cup, every cop on their feet. But the schedule, the plan, the actual assignment dropped 1 day before, like perfect timing. It's all made up, everybody knows. Different set of rules depending how the wind blows. No excusals, echoes through the halls. Unless you're close to chiefs, then the policy stalls. Nick's parade, we survived that ride. Pride March, hold on tight. Every lesson learned somehow disappears. See you at the next one, same chaos, different year. Every bad idea starts with, but the chief said, another finest buzzes, please disregard the last. Then another one will rise before you read it fast. Reply all, don't read twice, good luck. Welcome to the world's biggest game of what the Chief O'Hare got no life, making calls past 3, acting like the whole NYPD is his reality TV. 175 years and we're still amazed how every new detail ends up amazed. The city's still standing because the cops adapt, not because the plan was ever fully mapped. So here's to the rank that figures it out, making order from confusion without a doubt. When the dust settles, everybody knows the scoop. The best plan in the room is the one the cops improvise on the route. They wanna bury you here, no way. They wanna bury you there. No wonder everyone eligible is calling it a day, because the rules keep changing in every single way. Ay.
What do you think, Mont? What'd you think of that song? I was cracking up. I'm not gonna lie, I listened to it like 20 times.
Yeah.
And everyone I sent it to, or everyone I played it for was hysterical laughing.
Yeah, that's interesting. You make it a whole song like that out of AI. Yeah, that's interesting.
There's a new app that you could do it. Somebody sent it to me, and I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I'll look it up. But I mean, but again, like the words that they were saying there is I think anyone that knows anything about what's going on internally, what was he talking about there? He's like, oh, the rules keep changing,
Mhm.
the assignments keep changing. We've been doing this for over 100 years, and we still don't know how to work this. So it's like every time there's a new event, it's like we're starting over. We're a newly formed police department. No one knows what's happening. The orders change, the details change, and no one knows what's happening. And the only reason the city's surviving is because cops adapt, basically. The rank and file of the NYPD will adapt to the failed situation they're put in. And I totally agree with that. And I think, it's been highlighted a lot more these last 12 years, I think. But especially in the last 5.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, that should be expected when the majority of your job. I don't know if you could see this, guys, in who are watching us. It's a little small. I'm gonna bring up a little bigger version of this one so we could zoom in onto the years of experience, which is the important part of this, right? But this is on the NYPD's website, the NYPD Online. I thought it was very interesting because it shows you the experience that we have right now, and you can clearly see how the majority of the job is 10 years. It's rather under 14 years, and that's pretty crazy, especially when it comes to the leadership. And we talk about it all the time, like you saw during the Knicks with bosses standing around and everyone seems to not know what to do. I think it's partly a result of the brain drain that's happened, the experience drain. And everybody, it feels like a new department because it kind of literally is a new department, so.
Mark, keep that up for a second. So we're being told there's currently 33,778 cops, right? Mondani's budget was going to raise the overall head count past 35,000, the allotted budget past 35,000 to 35.5, about an additional 500 cops. And obviously that was pulled out in the last second, even though he said he was going to do it. Jessica Tisch said they were going to do it. And they gave various reasons on why they were going to do it. They said that Mondani said that he was going to do the additional 500 officers so that he was going to have enough officers to cover patrol so that they would be able to implement their new training programs and officers would receive that week of training. But here's the question. Here's the question, and it's not just for you, Maul, it's for everybody in the audience. How many cops do you think are currently working right now? Patrol precincts, transit districts, and housing PSAs, public service areas, like police service areas, excuse me. How many cops of the supposedly 33,778 are there? And I think that's the question that members of city council have incompetently asked for and not receiving the answers. And they were told time and time again lies by this administration. First, they weren't answered by the administration. The administration, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. Never get back to them, right? Testify in public hearings. This is public info. NYPD is a taxpayer-funded good. It's a public service. There is, they claimed NYPD Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch and NYPD Deputy Commissioner of Legal Matters Michael Gerber testified that it would be a safety issue to publicly give the data of how many cops are in a particular precinct from a concerned council person. So at first they played off, well, we'll get back to you, we'll get back to you. Then when they didn't get back to them, they asked, then when they didn't get back to them, the next round of hearings, they testified, well, we just can't give that information out. It's just not, it would create a safety hazard, and anything, we can't go against safety. So they won't tell you how many cops are in your local command. They won't answer the council person how many cops are in the commands that they cover. But they had no problem telling the public that there'll be 130 officers assigned to Taylor Swift Wedding. How's that not a safety issue? Meanwhile, when you look at that 130 officers that are assigned to Swift's wedding, I mean, that's more than most NYPD precincts have assigned to a precinct to cover a year, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we have no problem allotting those numbers and assigning those officers, but we can't tell you. And to me, like I'm just curious, like how many do you think there are? Like out of that 33,770, and we talk about it all the time, dude. Like we never see cops. You never see cops patrolling. Even if you see the cops, it's like they're assigned somewhere. They're not just going around looking for activity. They're not we're not a proactive stance. Like the posture has changed, the cadence of how you see cops move in the city has changed significantly in this last 5 years. And I think this was the craziest. This is like this summer's been the most eye-opening for me because I was like, wow, there's something really wrong here. Something really, really wrong. Like what do you think? How many people would you say? Like if you had to take a guess, how many do you think would be that?
Well, if I had to take a guess, I would say that it's maybe 27,000 or even 25,000.
On patrol?
Yes.
Like on
Actual cops. Yeah,
Yeah.
actual cops working. And not what we believe they're doing, which is keeping guys who are running their time on the roster. You know,
No, but I'm saying I'm not asking that. I'm not saying like what's the real number of people assigned. I'm saying
Mhm.
what's the number of people assigned, all ranks, patrol precincts, PSAs, and transit district. PSAs, for those of you that don't know, cover housing. They cover night shift property.
Yeah. I'm
Out of
thinking
that
that
33, that supposed 34,000, how many
Yeah.
people do you think that are actually on the street?
Yeah, 25,000, 25 to maybe 27,000. I think are actually on the street.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Think it's even less?
I think it's between 14 and 15,000 on the street. You know, again, that this isn't specialty units. It has nothing to do with the squads or anything like that. I'm talking about the manpower you have
I mean, just patrol.
answering 911
Yeah.
calls. I'm
Yeah.
saying it's like 14, 15,000. And if that's the case, if I'm right, then that means that 33,000 number is way off. Because or the people in charge of the New York City Police Department at this moment in time have zero clue what they're doing, and they are not able to properly manage and utilize staff. It's one or the other. Like it's either that number's off, if I'm correct. If I'm correct, and it's about 15,000 people total that are on patrol in transit districts, in PSA. Again, these are the people answering 911 calls. And what do we consistently hear? That response times are through the roof. They're not what they're being reported. Crime's up. And when people want to report crime, they're being told ridiculous things. You know, there was a video that was put out and it was in Spanish and it was on Instagram. I got sent to me a couple of times. And basically, this guy was banging on this girl's door. And when she went to answer the door, she saw that he was a crazy guy. She obviously didn't answer the door. And he pulled his pants down and basically Matt was masturbating right in front of her door. She's obviously terrified. She goes to the police. And what do you think they tell her? Nothing we can do here. No reporting. But, you know, crime's out. Crime's out. Don't worry about it. And so, I mean, that's a really bad example, but not that it's a bad example, but I mean, it's an egregious example of it. But when it comes to anything, car break-ins, criminal mischief, burglaries, robberies, thefts from grand larceny, whether it's grand larceny or misdemeanor larcenies from businesses, basically police response is diminished. And when they get there, the quality of the service diminished. Not only are reports not being taken, obviously perpetrators aren't being arrested and nothing's happening as a result of that. So I think I think when we look at what's happening in the NYPD and what's happening across the other city agencies, they're all telling you the same thing. They're all telling you everything's fine and they're operating perfectly fine, but I think everyone's eyes tells them a completely different story. There is zero. Let me just put it a different way. If there are 30,000 or 34,000 cops, how many should be on patrol, transit districts, and in precincts? Like, what do you think the percentage of that number should actually be? Mute it.
Yeah, I would have to say maybe like 70%. You'd think should be on patrol, on an active, or on the transit. Transit station houses. Yeah, just to go back on city council, there's a lot that city council doesn't ask the job, and they don't follow up the job with. And I happened to be going through a couple of videos, and I thought it was interesting what was said in the past and what has been said months later. And I mean, there's been no follow up by the media, right? In a lot of those cases, and so far none by city council when they should be, because at prior city council hearings, when the job was asked what are they doing for recruitment and attrition, Tish is giving answers. And in light of the new budget, there is, there's no follow-up on those questions. And the job is, what she said was going to happen is not being followed through now. So there's no follow up by city council and the media, and when I see things like the state of the NYPD speech that she gives every year, I now think that's complete horse crap, because months later, what ends up happening is not as said there. Okay, I'll play the videos for you so you can see them all yourselves. But certainly, when you look at this number 33, and keep in mind this hasn't been updated since 4/27/26. However, you're not going to tell me that in this time span we have like 1,000, we have 1,300 new guys, okay, on the job. You're not going to tell me that, and because Mamdani himself is saying that he's alluding to us having 35,000 cops right now, and that is not the case clearly.
Dude, I got a text the other day that, like, I forget how many it was. I want to say it was like, hold on, I'll give it to you 1 second. That 161 people showed up at one police plaza and turned their shields in to get retired ID cards. That was on Wednesday. 161 people. That's one day.
Wow.
One day, cops got it. 161.
Wow. Well, you know what's funny? Remember in March when she gave when they asked her about headcount, right? She had said something that I'm not sure if we actually talked about it. I think we must have brushed on it, but I'm not sure we actually went in on how just crazy it is. She said the department, first she said the numbers fluctuate. But then she says that they had an increase of 758 officers in 2025, and they had a net gain of 12 in 2024.
Yeah,
12. That's insane. And a net loss.
As long as you don't, as long as you don't,
2023.
Yeah, but as long as you don't count all the people that left, then you had a net gain of 12. As long as we'll just remove these years, we'll keep these numbers in there. It's. And think about it, like 2 months prior to Mamdani winning the election, you were told that I'm not going to sugarcoat this. We're at like panic levels here as far as recruitment. We have the inability to retain and recruit. We're unable to do it. And then he steps into office and it was like, that never happened. Oh, I never said that.
Yeah, it's absolutely that is just insane. Insane. For a department as big as we are, even and she was touting the 758 numbers as an accomplishment. You got in a department as big as us, you only got 758 new guys in a department that needs as much experience to navigate the waters of the tide of progressivism in the city, and whole neighborhoods that hate cops. Okay, to navigate that, you need experience, and you tell me 758 officers in a department that should be at least 40K is an accomplishment, but it's crazy. But let me play this video quickly to show you guys what I'm talking about here. Right, so this was the state of NYPD in February 2025, right? And this is Tish going on about recruitment.
We can do to make our city safer is hire more cops. This is going to be a major focus of our administration, and I am not going to sugarcoat the real recruitment issues that we're facing. In the not-so-distant past, NYPD applicants used to wait for years to get the call to join the academy. Now, we are practically begging people to take the exam. So what happened? First and foremost, we're still seeing the real impact of the defund and anti-police movements. A lot of the rhetoric aimed at our police is vile, and the pendulum has swung too far away from what I consider to be the most important and noble job anyone could take on. And we need to swing it back. Because
so let me fast forward a little bit.
Up to 35,000 officers, starting with the So along with the mayor, we are working aggressively to get the NYPD's headcount back up to 35,000 officers, starting with a new class of 1,000 recruits I swore in just yesterday.
Yeah, so think about that. 1,000 recruits, and you only had a net 758 by the end of 2025. Let's go a little further here.
The last time the NYPD hired such a big class was nearly a decade ago. To keep our city safe, we must have the best trained, the best prepared, and the best equipped officers in law enforcement. And we will be doing more work to increase our headcount in the coming months.
Several months later.
I noticed that the budget doesn't appear to include
last week.
any increased numbers for NYPD headcount. Can you explain the rationale for that?
Yes. So I've been talking to all agency heads about ways to find savings, and Commissioner Tish and I were able to identify ways to keep the NYPD headcount at the originally authorized 35,000.
But you're not at 35,000 right now. What does that mean?
While also meeting all of our crime-fighting needs and implementing the new programs that were announced earlier this year.
We can do to make our city.
Yeah, and he says to implement the programs they've been talking about earlier this year. I'm going to play another video which shows you that's also BS, okay? So I just need a minute or two to get that video up.
Well, here's the issue with that, though, right? So I get everyone outraged that, like, they said they were going to increase the head count by 500 cops, and then they didn't. Totally understand. It's understandable. But here's the thing. And in my opinion, the reason I believe that they scrapped that 500 is because they were never getting up to 35,000 cops, never mind 35,005 at their current rates of hiring versus attrition. So they would have budgeted money that would have basically just been sitting there. And they would have never got to use it. And of course, we can't have that because we have all these great socialist programs that we have to put in place and all of these failed programs that we have to pay back our donors and our friends. And we have to make sure the grift and the corruption continues out of the budget. And again, I'm going to say right now, anybody who voted for any part of this budget is complicit in a criminal conspiracy, in my opinion, because that budget is rife with corruption, right with incompetence and unnecessary, completely unnecessary spending. So, and I don't care if you have an R in front of your name. I don't care if I like you. Doesn't matter. Part of a criminal conspiracy. Any part of the budget, whether it's the capital budget or anything else, because just what we've been showing you over these last few months and the things we've been talking about are insane. So to me, is it a big deal that they didn't raise the head count to 35.5? Yeah, sure, it's a big deal, but they were never getting 35.5 cops because they can't even get to 35,000 cops. They can't keep it. They can't maintain it. They can't get to it. Even when they come close to it. And again, I don't think they're there. I don't think they're there. I'm pretty sure I would put money on it that we're between 14 and 15,000 cops that are actually assigned to patrol, housing, and transit. I would put money on it. And if that's the case, you telling me that more than half of the department is not assigned on those, not assigned to those units, not assigned to the number one function in policing, which is answering those 911 calls. And I agree. I totally agree with you, Marlon. Like, you would think that around 70% of the department would be assigned to deploy its main function. If it's true that there's 33.5, then I mean, that's a big problem, and I'm correct, and there's only about 15,000 on patrol. You got a big problem. Somebody needs to start explaining why you got more than 50% of the department not answering 911 calls. And what came out of Joanne Ariola's office yesterday, where we're hearing that EMS is holding over 900 calls for service on a Wednesday summer afternoon. 900 calls they're holding. How many people died as a result of that? And throughout this summer so far, and even in the spring, we've consistently been hearing NYPD precincts in severe backlog, meaning they're holding 80 jobs and they only have 2 units active working. So what's happening in New York City is you're calling 911 and nobody's coming. If they do come, they're coming hours later. And if they get there in a timely manner, they can't even handle the job properly because they're holding another 100 jobs. So I mean, what I see is diminished public safety product all around, but I believe it starts with the NYPD. I believe it starts there. If we're definitely so that's my thing. When we talk about her and the hiring, I don't think they could ever have gotten to it. Here's Areola right here. We had as many as 612 EMS holds today due to a chronic underfunding, and the latest budget failed to address this. This is absolutely unacceptable. 612 emergencies should never be put on the back burner. But that's her later tweet. That's her earlier tweet. Her later tweet is, and I don't want to I'll bring it up. Okay.
I thought this was the later one. This is her tweet at 9:34 p.m. I think her earlier tweet had 300 and change jobs.
Yeah, and then but you didn't keep following up.
There's another one?
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. It's 612 jobs. You're right. I'm sorry.
I couldn't find her earlier tweet anymore, but what this means is that either way is that those jobs increased, So we had even more jobs on hold,
Yeah.
And keep in mind, we already had an episode where we talked about EMS response times being up right now, and they're up to 10 minutes right now. And that same episode we talked about how around, I believe it's 6 minutes, 6 minutes, if you don't get help by that time frame, you might be brain dead. Okay. So not only is EMS arriving late, but as is the case here, they may not show up for at all, if not like a long time, by the time you need help. Is that a problem? Oh, you bet it is a problem. And it's something that wasn't addressed in the new budget. And it doesn't seem like the city has any sort of answer to this.
Yeah, no, it's totally. I mean, it's wild, dude. And that's just it. You can't be holding that many jobs if your other public safety agencies are what's it called, are actually functioning. So, can you take this down, Mark?
Yeah.
So Eric's actually in the chat. He says that his money says 12,000 and that the 33 is complete bullshit. I'm telling you, I think it's like 15,000, and it shows it shows that we're nowhere near where we should be. He is Mondani with Morgan McKay, and they sit down and they're talking about, this is him, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where he actually said that he was going to increase the headcount of NYPD by 500. Listen to his reasoning behind it.
Now, you recently approved to increase the NYPD's headcount. The headcount is 35,000 uniformed officers, and it went over that cap by about 370 officers. You received some criticism from it from the Democratic Socialists, but why is it so important to have these additional officers, especially as we're looking at this summer with the World Cup, the Knicks, which is sort of wrapping up now, but the possibility of a Taylor Swift wedding here in New York City? Tell us more about why this is needed.
You know, these are officers that are going to be added because of two specific reasons that were presented to me. And the first was the fact that within our NYPD, there isn't sustained training after an officer gets through the academy. And this is a desire to ensure that training is a regular part of serving in this department. And that's the bulk of these additional officers. The other is that when we looked at the Bronx, we found that the Bronx was being treated differently than Brooklyn, than Manhattan, than Queens. It had one borough command, whereas these other boroughs with comparative levels of demand had two. And so we made the decision to split that command into two, which increases response times and also puts it on parity with these other boroughs. And these are critical reasons of why we made this decision. And I also appreciate that the criticism that we receive, it's criticism still coming from a place of wanting this to be the best possible city. And we appreciate that criticism, and this is why we made those decisions.
Okay. Dude, totally 2 weeks later? Yeah, no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah. Has the media asked them those questions yet? Like, well, what made you change your mind? Like, there seems to be no follow-up on the fact that you basically, you basically flipped on your prior, your prior statement. And with that said, let me show this video now. Now, this is the other one that's going to be very interesting, because one of the problems we talked about when we first saw this was how you're going to get these plans accomplished if you have a manpower problem. And so this again is from the state of NYPD in 2026. So this is February 2026.
Workers, they want confidence that when officers are called into volatile moments, those officers are prepared to protect life and exercise informed judgment under pressure. That is why, in 2026, we are launching the most significant overhaul of in-service training that this department has undertaken in decades. For the first time, officers will start to participate in a recurring, focused, week-long in-service training program that they will attend consistently throughout their careers. This won't be a procedural check the box. It will ensure that officers are periodically retrained on things like tactics, de-escalation, constitutional policing, legal standards, and situational awareness. We are doing this because we ask officers to make hard decisions in moments that unfold quickly and that carry real consequence. When those moments arrive, preparation matters, and so do the tools that they carry. As for the week-long recurring training that we're going to do in the curriculum, a lot of it is going to be very specifically focused to the roles and duties of police officers, so I'm not sure that all of it would be transferable or useful for the crisis management system, but Alex can walk you through what that will entail.
Yeah, the commissioner is exactly right. The training will really be focused on a lot of the day-to-day situations that our officers find themselves in that may have been trained originally in the academy when they were recruits, but then they go 10, 15 years and there's no chance for a refresher. So, things like defensive tactics or de-escalation, obviously compliance with the law, whether it's statutory or constitutional. So it'll be very policing focused, so probably not terribly applicable to the providers in the crisis management system, but obviously, there is communication with them, to help them understand where areas might be useful for them to deploy. So that will, of course, continue.
Why is it that officers continue their career and never get retrained on a lot of these things? Why is that happen? Why does that happen, guys? Well, it happens because, there's not enough manpower. And that training often, what happens? It gets canceled, right? So that's the problem. Let's watch the rest of it.
Looking to working with you on that.
Several months later.
All right, so 5 days a week, 12-hour tours.
5 days a week, 12-hour tours, but in that time, we are doing things like canceling training. We are canceling all things that could otherwise be a drain on NYPD resources. We do not expect to be canceling their RDOs, their regular days off, as a practice.
We've canceled all that
time to time.
Yeah.
Wait, dude, you know what's funny? I remember when we were talking about the in-service training, I was like, no, it's a good idea. And I remember Eric being like, it's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, come on, don't give him a hard time. And then you were like, yeah, but John, are they really ever going to get it? And I'm like, well, that's a totally separate issue. And here we are. We didn't even get a year of it. All you got was the idea of it. We're going to get this great in-service training. Mondani's like, oh, yeah, no, we're going to hire 500 more cops so that we could allow these cops to get training. Because what's he telling you? We can't actually get them to go to get to.
I'm going to be using my Captain Wilson meme from now on.
Captain Wilson.
Sure. Yeah. Everyone's getting trained in-service training all year round now.
Yeah.
Sure.
But he's like, he is total joke. He is total. He's a total joke. But yeah, but then he was literally telling Morgan, like, basically, yeah, no, we can't actually have cops trained because we don't have the manpower to have cops trained. So we need to get up past the head count so that we can send them to training. Tish is, oh yeah, no, training. We're gonna hire. We're gonna train. And then here she goes, yeah, we're canceling training. No more training. But we're not expecting to take any cops days off. And what do we hear? Cops work a 12-hour tours, no days off.
Yeah. So it took literally 3 months, right? 3 months, and for us to get to this point, after she went to city council, after the state of NYPD. So, like John said, we didn't even get to a full year for this not to work out. And again, the problem with a lot of this stuff is that you don't have enough cops. You don't have enough manpower. And this is why you see things like this are going to continue being an issue. Because not only do we have not enough EMS, but we don't have enough cops to respond either.
Yeah. Hood Mayor says Jessica Tish invented cooking the books at at NYPD. F out of here. And nobody's saying that, Hood. But what we're saying is you're literally being lied to into your face. And the difference is nobody's calling it out. Nobody. Like, the lies are so blatant that they're not even taking a year to come out. They're not even taking weeks to come out. It's literally days later. You're being told one thing, and then just a few days later, it's the next thing. No, and she's not. Again, she's not any different than any of our other police commissioners at all. We're not saying that at all, especially when it comes to the crime statistics. That has been systemic throughout the last 30 years of the NYPD. Crime statistics, public perception, playing games. But crime statistics versus reality has never been further apart than it is today. And I think that's the problem. And then also when you look at NYPD hiring and retention, the bullshit that they're selling the public and the reality has never been further apart than it is today. And that's what we're saying. This is a full hands-on approach from legacy media and your government selling you garbage, and the lies are clear as day. They're right in your face. So I don't think that this isn't fair criticism. I know there's a certain union president out there. A lot of people say he's like Ric Flair. Woo! That every time he has new detectives come in, he consistently reminds them not to listen to a certain fake news podcast that he listens to and he has his entire board listen to right now. And again, I always say, like, I don't understand it. You know, you could come here, we'll give you the floor. You know, I think all of our criticisms are fair. And I don't even think it's our criticisms. I think Marlon just showed you it's their own words that come back to bite them in the ass. You know, and then so if you're going to just smear us or say things about us because you can't handle that you're full of shit, I mean, that's your problem. That's a you problem, not a us problem. You know, we just happen to be narrating it, and we don't have a 24-hour memory like most people. You know, we remember the bullshit that we were told. You know, and then we expect it because, you know, when I say something, I follow through with it. When Mullen says something, he follows through with it. When Eric says something, he follows through with it. When they say something, they do the complete opposite.
They go on to city council and then they blow smoke up all these councilmen's rares, and months later, you know, flip flop, and nobody ever calls them out on it. Okay. And that's why I keep referring to those council hearings as kayfabe, because everybody knows the problem in the room. Everybody gets up there and you know, grandstands and pretends they're talking tough to her. But in reality, this is all a performance, and it's all theater. And, you know, those videos I just showed you are why it's theater, because again, they flip-flop and nobody's calling them out. And by the way, also keep in mind, there are councilmen who voted for this budget, and they voted for it even though the same problems they brought up when like Tish was there and some of the other agencies, right, are not corrected in the budget. And, you know, it's like the budget totally ignores those problems. So those problems will continue. And I expect those same councilmen to bring up those problems in the forthcoming years as well. So why even bother then? You know, I mean, we have, for instance, Chris Banks, the councilman of East New York, brought up the fact that you know, by Linden Boulevard over there, that corridor over there is a big prostitution location, right? He brought that up. What's the big problem here? Well, we can't devote, you know, we have a piecemeal solution. Okay. Every couple months we have an initiative there to we have a full court press. And then once we're gone, the prostitutes return, the Johns return, and it's back to business as usual. Okay. The problem is you need a sustained effort. And in order to have a sustained effort, you need cops. And this budget doesn't have cops in it. But yet Councilman Banks voted yes for the budget. So why even bring up the prostitution problems over there? How else do you expect it to get solved? You know, you want, you know, if you have issues in your district and you're not making a consistent effort to pressure government to change them, then how do you expect it to ever change? Do you only like getting up there and talking to Tish and getting on your soapbox for the sake of hearing your own voice? Because that's what you're doing if you don't have proper follow-up to get things actually accomplished.
Dude, it's infuriating, bro. And honestly, I'm done like playing nice even with anybody on it, because everyone now is going to try to distance themselves from it. But it's further than just voting on the budget. It's more than like, you know, all the issues and you're not doing anything to address them when it comes to budget time or in between budgets, in between voting on budgets. He is the Speaker of City Council, Julie Menon. Now she's doing her media tour, trying to distance herself from voting on the budget and saying, oh, yeah, no, this is good. This is good. Yeah. Don't worry about the billions of dollars we're lighting on fire. Everything's good. Everything's good. Except, you know, I didn't support not funding the NYPD to a greater level. Here she says.
City. The NYPD was a big topic, right? Not getting a number of an increase in officers, something that the commissioner wanted. I know members of the city council wanted to see an increase. Why wasn't there an increase?
So the night before the budget vote, the mayor called me and said that he and Commissioner Tisch had reached an agreement that they would not be adding the 580 officers that the council
wasn't me, right?
Had wanted. Now, to be clear, the NYPD budget did increase $300 million in this budget. It does not include the 580 officers. I disagree with that decision. I am concerned, and I've been speaking about this repeatedly, that rape numbers are going up, felony assaults, and subway crime. I do believe we need those officers. So I strongly disagree with that 11th hour decision.
Yeah, and well, can you explain?
But I voted for the budget anyway.
In the increase then in the budget if you're not going to give more officers.
So it goes for administrative purposes, a number of different things but it's not going specifically to the head count. So the head count will remain the same. And my concern with that, Dan, is if you look at the size of the NYPD, it's basically the same size that it was on 9/11. The NYPD has successfully thwarted over 50 terrorist attacks to New York City. And we haven't heard about many of them because the NYPD has successfully thwarted them. When you see these rape numbers and felony assault numbers and subway crime go up, it is of deep concern. So I believe they do need that head count. And it's something that, just to be clear, we're going to fight for now.
Is it?
Oh, we're going to fight for it now, but we just voted to not do it. It's, dude, it's like, but and everyone wants to distance themselves from it. You know, Bratton just put out a nice little tweet for Tisch today, trying to distance Tisch from the budget as well. Oh, she didn't support this. She wanted this, you know, and it's like, well, what do you mean? She's saying, the mayor's saying, the speaker of city councils, they're all saying that this was an agreement that she came to with the mayor. And again, I'm not knocking them because I think the real, it's really just exposing the real lie is that you're not at 33,000, but you're not at 33,000 cops and they can't even get to the 35,000. That's the real issue that's what's being exposed is we don't want to allot money that we're never going to get to spend. We need to spend every dollar that we have because we need to keep all the corruption and all the grift going. And I think that's what's being exposed by that budget. It has nothing to do with whether they want more cops or not want more cops. And clearly, like, you know, the mayor prior to coming into office didn't want more cops, you know, but once he became the mayor in New York City, he's kind of like, yeah, I think we need more cops, you know, and so he's been getting a lot of pushback from the DSA on that. You know, like, you're going to increase the headcount of the NYPD. You're going to continue to utilize SRG, which he's been doing every day, right? I mean, like every day, every night, the SRG is out there in force. He said he was going to abolish them. I mean, where are we? I mean, you're 6 months in, dude. You use SRG every night. Even if you rebrand them at this point, maybe the socialists will back off you, but it'll just expose that you're a loser. He is Hassan Piker, the talking head for the DSA. I'm shocked he actually has a light skin tone. I guess his first name Hassan is helping him to cover that up because I think what Fox News exposed this week is pretty interesting that 86% members of the Democratic Socialists of America are in fact white, but yet when you look at their candidates, they're all black or brown, women, and sometimes Asian. But you never see white candidates. So you know, it's shocking that Hassan Piker is the voice of the DSA and the social media. But I guess, you know, and I wonder, is that really his name, or is it like Chad? I don't know. I would like to look into that. I think that's something that whoever's listening to this, I think that's something we should look in. Is Hassan Piker's, is that his real name or is that a stage name? Because his skin tone is too light for the front that the DSA is putting to try to sell their garbage, that they're the voice of the working people and the voice of the minority. Here's Hassan Piker talking about the pressure they put on Zohran Madani.
I don't want to glaze the man too much, but he has been so fucking good. I mean, look, yesterday I was talking about how he, you know, there's plans in motion to hire 600 new NYPD officers, right? That goes against a core campaign promise. Groundwork came out and openly criticized them for it, openly pressured them from the outside for it. Okay? Guess what Zoran did today? Shook hands with Menin. New budget for New York City. no new NYPD hires. Okay. Promises made, promises kept. That's it. That's it. That's huge. Okay. That's huge. That is responsive democratic politics. And I mean small d democracy. Okay. You didn't forget the people that brought you to the ball. It was Emerge. Okay, Emerge 2. Oh my God. Oh my God. It was all of DSA. Okay. Inside, outside pressure. Sorry for not giving Emerge's proper credit. Oh my God. Anytime I say something about DSA now, people get really mad internally in the organization. Not internally, but like they tweet about it and they're like, this guy doesn't know anything about. This guy doesn't know anything about.
All right, enough of Hassan stumbling over his own words. There he is in his nice, fancy New York City apartment with his beautiful little coffee bar in the background, wearing about $15,000 between bracelets and rings in his nice, fancy custom suit, pushing the DSA line and telling you how they pressured Zohar Mamdani into backing off that campaign promise. His full legal name is Hassan Dogan Piker. He's commonly referred to online as Hassan Abibi, with Abi meaning older brother in Turkish. He's born on July 5th, 1991 in New Brunswick, New Jersey to Turkish parents and spent much of his childhood in Istanbul before returning to the U.S. So there it is. That's why you're able to use him. Oh, I'm not white. I'm Turkish. I'm not a fancy rich kid. I'm a socialist.
Yeah. Another child of privilege. They're all wealthy, spoiled brats, who never had real jobs. And keep in mind his net worth is $8 million. Okay, I haven't even looked up his parents. I'm pretty sure his parents are probably wealthy themselves. It's all the DSA is the biggest scam out there. Okay, it's the same old people. If you look at the people funding it, it's the same old people funding them that funded the old Democrat Party. The only difference is now they're trying to hijack what's actually real populism on the left, right? What happens is these movements spring up as a result of the way things, as a result of what's happening in the economics and in the world at large, and they know it. So what they do is they then seize these movements by funding certain candidates, funding certain people to be their mouthpiece, and this is how they suck the energy out of the room. This is, you look at the Tea Party movement. Look, the energy has been really sucked out the movement, out of that movement. So all these kids that the DSA pushes, they're all wealthy kids. Look at Chio Say. Look at this guy. They come from privilege.
Nepo
they're not
baby
real
Mamdani.
socialists. They're teacups. They're latte socialists.
They're not. The thing is, they're not socialists at all. It's socialism for you. Yeah. It's capitalism and luxury for me. It's 78 degrees in your house. It's 68 in mine. It's
look at Mamdani. We talked about it in an episode. His mother was connected to people like Epstein and Maxwell.
What about the apartment that he was sitting in when he came on here? It looked like my grandmother's apartment from 1970 with like yellow Formica countertops, old wooden cabinets. And I'm like, you're just trying to play off that, in a rent-controlled apartment, by the way, taking it from someone who could actually use it. And you're just trying to play off like you're a voice of the working class. You don't really live there. You don't really stay there. You're sitting somewhere with a little sifter of cognac in front of a fireplace, hanging out in the summertime because your air conditioning's too cold. Like, come on, bro. Like with a little shawl on. Like, you're not fooling anybody, dude. But it's time for a message from our partners over at KELCE. The 2026 primaries are taking shape, and you can trade the biggest political races on KELCE. On KELCE, you can trade major primary election outcomes and the biggest political storylines as they happen. Will the Democratic Party win the U.S. Senate in November? Right now, The Republicans are favored. The Democrats are currently trading at 40%, meaning a $50 trade would pay out $117 if, in fact, Democrats win the Senate. On KELCE, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position. For a limited time, download the KELCE app and use code FINEST to get $10 when you trade 10. KALSHI, KELCE. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kelce.com/regulatory.
Yeah, I see somebody in the chat mentioned Mamdani's mansion in Uganda. Yeah, he does have one, a compound in Uganda, which is also protected by the government of Uganda too, by the way. Probably because his father is, his father's very connected to, keep in mind his father came to America via the CIA's, the CIA's transport. At the time, CIA was transporting certain high-valued individuals out of Africa. Okay, so we're talking a guy who is not a blue-collar guy. He's another child of privilege and wealth. So
yeah, so let's take a listen to this because I'm curious. I didn't listen to this, but I used the graphic to post, but I never actually listened to this report. Let's hear what Fox had to say about this.
Now look at all of this, and I want to get your not only reaction to that, but what do you think it means in terms of the future of your party, MSG?
It feels like people who have never really had to work, and we know Malat hasn't had a very traditional job, and this is reflective of a lot of people that are in DSA. They've led very privileged lives where they've only had to sit and ponder about what hard work is and never had to actually do the hard work. And I think that's reflected in a lot of their ideology and a lot of their platform. It's not connected to the steps that take real policy wins to make happen. But I don't think that we should ignore them and think of it as something that only happens in very deep blue pockets. 5 years ago, I could have never imagined that these kind of candidates would be coming to Congress, and now they're here. And the job right now for a lot of people in the Democratic Party is to make sure that nationally, this is not something that becomes an identifier as the brand.
Now look at all of this, and I want to get your not only reaction to that.
So that is the Democrats trying to distance themselves from who they are with the help of Fox News. This is your party, people. And I'm only 100% right. This is the Democratic grift. This is what they've been doing for decades. This isn't anything new. They just put a little rose and a different title in front of their failed policies. That's it.
Yep. And this is Mamdani's palace in Uganda. Looks pretty nice, right? He should have done the interview from there next to that, like, those two swimming pools he has there.
You could have probably went in the pool house, bro, or the guardhouse, or the guest quarters, or the maid quarters. Could have probably maybe in the service kitchen. Because there was definitely a service kitchen in there too. And for those of you that aren't rich enough to know what a service kitchen is, it's a kitchen that you don't go into. It's just the staff. The plebes. The plebs. They cook in there for you, and then they bring it out to you. The other kitchen's just for show, so that people can see how fancy you live.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, this happens to be next to the water also. So I think it's a lake that's there. But I'm sure he has a helicopter land. Oh yes, he does have a helicopter landing pad there. Let me pull that up for you guys here. So again, we're not talking about a blue collar guy who's lived the same experiences as you have, okay? We're talking a guy of, again, a child of privilege who's never known true work, okay? This is his first job, real job, okay? So look at that. He got a nice little helipad over there too, and a giant lake right behind him, and a dock over there.
Oh, wow. That must have been where he got the chip on his shoulder to start rapping. He got a nice dock. I wonder what kind of boat they got there too. It's amazing. Wow. I feel so bad for him. That is unbelievable. Could you imagine how all the trauma he had to deal with growing up? You could learn to drive in your compound. Like that's how much property you own. And guess who it's walled off from? You. It's walled off from the working class. I have pinned to the top of my Twitter, and I'm gonna keep this there for a while, I think, because I have me asking him specifically about you, Marlon. But it's the quote that I love the most about it, and it says, "This is a Zohran Mamdani quote. They are the authoritarians who seek to keep us pressed beneath their thumbs because they know once we shake ourselves loose, we will never be held down again." Right? Who the fuck is the authoritarian here? You know, like, are you kidding me, dude? Like, are you like, and people buy it, bro. It's sick, man. It's literally insane. And here he is. Here he is. Let's see who the authoritarians really are. Let's see who they really are, because it's definitely not us. They are the authoritarians. Hold on, I'm gonna show you who the authoritarians are that keep us pressed beneath their thumb. Ready? Ready? Let's see. Let's bring up the authoritarians who keep us pressed beneath their thumb.
And to every business owner, please set your thermostats to 78 degrees to alleviate the stress on our power grid. And to every business owner, please set your thermostats to 78 degrees to alleviate the stress on our power grid.
Who do you think you are? You are an elected representative of taxpayers, of business owners. You, as the mayor of New York City, should not get to dictate how people live or how they operate or how their businesses operate. There's plenty of businesses that would fail if their thermostats were set to 78. There's plenty of businesses who would go belly up if their thermostats were set to 78 degrees. Like, it's a complete, again, it's just another complete overstep by New York City government. And Bill de Blasio did it, Eric Adams did it, and now Zohran Mamdani's doing it. Complete, utter overstep. Like, screw you, bro. What are we paying you for? Why is our power grid going to fail? Why aren't you ensuring that essential services are being maintained? Why aren't you ensuring that we're keeping up with our growing economy, supposed growing economy, and our evolution into this electrical grid where we're putting a lot of stress on it? It's to me, I don't know. When I hear shit like that, it's infuriating, dude. And I think people, like, oh, you guys overreact, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, you guys overreact to this. And I was like, no, I don't think people overreact to this at all. I don't think they take it serious enough. I think we've partaken in way too many humiliation rituals where we're willing to do anything that we're told to do when the people that are telling us to do something don't do the thing they're telling us to do. Whether it's the COVID vax, whether it's turning your thermostat to 78 degrees, whether it's maintaining social distancing, whether it's wearing a mask, they don't do what they expect you to do, and they demand of you to do. And they have no authority in this country to do it.
Yeah. Keep in mind, right, that New York State has a couple mandates that are supposed to be implemented in the coming years that include an all EV, or rather they call it zero emission vehicles by 2035. So I'd like to know how that's going to be accomplished when you don't even have a grid that can support, the AC usage, widespread AC usage when it's heat wave like now. How are you going to get that accomplished? We also have mandates that involve buildings becoming zero emission as well.
Yep.
And again, I think this one is supposed to also be in the mid 2030s. Again, I don't know how you're going to get that accomplished without, getting a new power grid. So this is why we're kind of like in the stupidest timeline. It's like, it's just absurd, the stupidity. They don't even have the capability to implement their own ridiculous agenda right now. They don't even have that. And yet, we see no movement on things that would benefit them, let alone us, which is again infrastructure. So I'd like to know how all of these things are going to get accomplished in the time frame they are, and I'd also like to know where they're going to get the money to fund any of it. But if they, whatever the answer is, whatever the BS answer is, I support them going to Greg Matarino to
No, Dan
Dan
Manarino.
Dan
He looks like a
Manarino, yeah,
Greg though. He
whatever.
looks like a Greg.
Yeah. Every time they go to this guy, I know I'm not gonna get the full truth, because that guy, we saw that guy every time.
With
Tariq
Adams.
Shepard and Adams and members
Cleaning
of the
up the
Adams
corruption
administration.
scandal.
Yep. Every time
Buttering
they
it up
wanna,
for you.
yeah. Every time they want to give us the BS, they go to that guy.
I'm
So,
gonna go to Turkey, get hair like him, and then start wearing makeup, powder makeup. Put my skinny little suit on. Stop working out for a couple of years, and I'll be like Dan too. Okay, so tell us why you're mandating electrical stoves and electrical vehicles, and you drive gas-powered SUVs, and your helps quarters have gas-powered stoves. Completely ridiculous, dude. Complete insanity. And so,
sorry, Chronicles.
Another thing. Oh yeah, don't get mad, Chronicles. Don't get mad. We know he's your favorite anchor, bro. So, so how about this one? Oh, and by the way, this guy's pretty good at the Stew Studio. If you go give him a follow over on X, he does a lot of clippings too, like we do, of all these podcasts and city council hearings. He's definitely a good follow. Check him out on X. But he put this one out too, and I thought this really hit home for me, because I was like, I don't think cops take. I don't think let me back up what I said. Not that I don't think. I think that cops and firemen are amongst the stupidest people alive. And because you guys have no memory, if the regular public has about a 24-hour memory, you guys have about a half-hour memory. Like, you could only remember half-hour things, and then it just completely wipes out of your brain, and you just go right back into like, And I guess part of it is like, we can't be too intelligent. I mean, obviously, people call 911, and we go running towards things that everyone else is running away from, right? So you're running into burning buildings, you're running towards shots fired. So I guess there is a little level of craziness to that. But I wouldn't think that it was pure stupidity, but I think a lot of you, it's just pure stupidity. Because, we've been talking a lot about, the delayment of pension payments. We talk a lot about all of the fiscal harm that's been done to members of the NYPD and FDNY. We talk a lot about the coming legislation that further harms the NYPD, further emasculates them, further makes their work life and their health and wellness, endangers them even further, puts more strain and stress. I don't even think it's sustainable now, the situation it's in. We talked about it last week. But people forget, and they're willing to go to the altar of government that is now controlled by far left radicals. It's been controlled by far left radicals, but these people are even more radical than the traditional far left radicals. And they want to stay silent, and they expect to get raises, and they think things are going to get better for them if they stay silent and do nothing. The municipal labor union for public safety agencies have taken a position for the last 6 years, and their position is, if we say nothing about things that are going to harm us, potentially belly up our pension system, and in this case, actually belly up our pension system, we might get something good. We might get a raise. So you might get a raise, and you think that's a good thing, even though if in 10 years your pension system is going to be diminished. Does that raise actually raise? So you might get something good if we say nothing about the healthcare, but more than likely, you won't have healthcare in 10 years, or your healthcare will be at a higher cost than what it would be to go on like an Obamacare, let's say, and basically force you to go on an Obamacare and help the city to stop funding the healthcare that you were promised and you were negotiated for in retirement. If we say nothing, we might get something good right now, but we'll sell you out in the long term. And I think, for fire unions, I don't think the legislation has been that bad for you. They look at you as a beacon of white supremacy, and they're doing anything to upend the competency of your department. But you haven't experienced, and your job, although it's changed in the last 10 years, is still not close to what it is like to be in the NYPD, and the amount of hate that the NYPD receives and the amount of pressure they receive and their job. All of these things, I think for the most part, firemen are still lauded. It's still a lauded profession. It's still a respected profession. I don't think the same is true of the NYPD. But now you have these people in charge, and they're literally telling you to your face, they want to get rid of you, which means if they get rid of the NYPD, if they abolish their ultimate goal of abolishing the NYPD is successful, guess what that means for the police pension fund? Does anybody know what that means? It means your police pension fund will become insolvent. And yes, 100% your payments will be stopped. They will be diminished at first, and then eventually they will be stopped. And we've hear this time and time again. We just heard from a recent Democratic nominee winner for the assembly that, he wants to work towards the goal of eventually getting rid of the police. We're not there yet, but they're working towards that goal. Here's another talking head for the DSA. Listen to what she's got to say. She or he or it. I don't know what it is, to be honest with you. But let's see what they got to say.
I'm pretty disappointed by the arguments against, I guess. It does sound a lot like a lot of arguments that we've heard over the years as 2020 has faded into the distance, and folks were very happy to kind of move on from the radical language that they adopted out of convenience because that's the way the wind was moving. I think, again, the abolition of the carceral element of the capitalist state is a very specific thing, right? That's always what I mean when I mean abolish the police. I don't mean abolish some community force under communism that can sort of hold each other accountable. That is a different thing, right? And I feel like this is worded in such a way that it refers to what I mean it to refer to. I think the other issue here that's sitting in the background is whether or not we should be tailing electeds. Last convention was pretty clear. We passed a bunch of resolutions committing ourselves to working towards being a party surrogate with real political independence. And that means that we run candidates to help serve the party's long-term strategy. And we're strategic about kind of understanding the different rhetorical lines that our electeds versus DSA can hold. And we're thoughtful about how those interact with each other. But the idea that we need to align ours with theirs is a huge, huge mistake, right? It's a historic mistake. And we need to really learn from that.
So what it was saying there is that it does, of course, support abolishing the police as it sits. But, they obviously need a force, based in communism that could, work towards their goals. But eventually they want to abolish the NYPD. And yet you morons are perfectly fine because your union presidents are telling you, don't worry, with giving these people access to your pension fund.
Yeah. Well, we titled this "Paid for with NYC Pensions" for a reason, because when you really look at this, you need to ask yourself the question: will I be paying for this? If not immediately, but in the future. Okay. And I'll show you as we go around why exactly that is the case. Okay. And like John said, your union leadership aren't exactly you know, being very vocal about what's going on. Okay. And this is all, it's all part of the same issue. They're not vocal when the DSA do it. They're not vocal when we have blatant elitism and malfeasance in being thrown in your face, right? And so I'll explain why that's the case, and why you should be concerned about all of this. Okay. And you know what really gets me about what we're seeing now is we're seeing, I've, you know, there's always been corruption in government, right? Corruption and malfeasance and elitism. But the fact that it's so blatant now, and the fact that like it isn't being called out by people people who claim to be fighting for the you know, the blue collar workers, right? And blue collar and workers' rights. You know, the fact that they are being silent right now really gets me. Okay. So um so this is one of Taylor Swift's houses, right? Pretty big.
Oh, that looks like Mondani's estate.
Right? And another, you know, they're all it's all the same thing, really. It's all rich people who you know, who claim to be about the people, you know. But this is her home. I believe it's $17 million. It's another home in Rhode Island. But instead of having it there, or her other numerous homes, like the one in Nashville, like the one in Beverly Hills, right? Or the estate that they had actually planned it, which is it's a resort on Rhode Island. I'll bring up the picture as we go around. But instead of having it there, we're having it at Madison Square Garden. So why should you be concerned about that? And why is it related to what's going on with the DSA and their push to use your pension for all their boondoggles? Why? Well, because, you know, in this case, Mamdani he needs that money. He needs money. Okay. The city needed, keep in mind, $6 billion to close the gaps. And we needed that from the state. And during that process, well, keep in mind, we still don't know the breakdown of that budget, right? If somebody has managed to come across it, I'd like to know, because I haven't found it yet online. Okay. So Mamdani needed money, and he said numerous times he wanted to defer the pensions, right, to get that 1.8 billion for his immediate budget problems. Okay. So you needed that money, but instead we are hosting an event in the garden that needs NYPD security. And yeah, this came out a little small, so it's a little hard to read. I'll put up another picture of it. But the point of this is that these guys are very wealthy. KELCE is worth $92 million, and she is a billionaire. Okay, $2 billion. Again, this home is $17 million, and it looks like you got plenty space around it, you know, to have a large gathering of 1,000 people.
Do you think they keep the thermostat 78?
Yeah, I very much doubt that.
Even when they're not home, because you know they're probably. Yeah. I mean, how often are they probably there anyway? Like
that's a good question.
A couple times a year.
Yeah,
few nights.
I mean, she has multiple homes, so I don't think she spends much time there, including a massive one in California. But again, she is currently the richest female musician in history, with a net worth of $2.8 billion. Okay. So the problem with what the DSA is doing is that they, instead of being fiscally responsible, right? Instead of being fiscally responsible, they are trying to use your pension for things like affordable housing, right? And instead of being fiscally responsible, the city is again using NYPD manpower to man security at their wedding. Okay. Now somebody's got to pay for that security. And so far there's been no indication that the city is being billed for it by them, or even MSG is paying for it. And the costs are, I've heard estimates at $160K for all the cops that are going to be there. So again, You know, this is the fiscal malfeasance that we should all be concerned with, because again, we needed money for this budget. And we're going to need money for the budget next year too. We're going to need not only the $6 billion for this one that Coachell supplied, but we're going to need another $6 billion on top of that next year. So with that said, why are we doing this here in Manhattan? Okay. Why are we doing this here in Manhattan? And again, if we title this paid for with your NYC pension, because whatever costs the security, the NYPD detail, whatever overtime costs and other costs are calculated for this, it's got to come from somewhere, right? And if it's coming from the budget now, that is money that could have been more responsibly allocated, okay? Including money that could have been allocated to the reserves or just like we talked last go around, infrastructure.
I mean, to me, it's just another humiliation ritual. Middle of the busiest summer probably in recorded New York City history. Knicks win a championship. July 4th weekend, the busiest weekend that the NYPD is going to face, the middle of FIFA events. We have, 4th of July is traditionally off the hook. That's why Mondani and Tish had to run out yesterday and be like, oh, look, we're at historic lows. Everything's had a history. I've made history. History is in crime numbers. We're at the lowest, the safest 6 months ever. I mean, I don't know. Did anyone witness what occurred after every next game? Do you think we're at the safest, most competent department that we've been at in history? I don't think so. And nobody thinks that. And on top of all the horrific crimes that have been occurring this summer. So in the middle of all of that, you have an overtime crisis. You have cops that are completely overworked and demoralized. You have a historic heat wave coming. They're saying potentially deadly and disastrous heat wave coming to New York City. And in the middle of that, you have to have a billionaire wedding in a huge facility that the public's not allowed to. They're going to shut down Penn Station. They're going to shut down the areas around Madison Square Garden, even larger than they did for the Knicks games. So they're going to have this massive security feature there, all taxpayer funded. Apparently, we were told that the Swifties are going to pay $160,000. They're going to reimburse the city for the NYPD. That's a joke. The other thing we were told.
Wait, John, that's incorrect. I
didn't say that. That's Community Notes on X saying this.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's incorrect. I've been going back and forth the last day with the community note. I'll show you guys in a second. I've been going back and forth with that community note, pointing out how it's incorrect. Apparently, so the way community notes work is basically people put it up there, okay? And there's been a sustained effort to put up misinformation there to change the narrative. And I've been going back and forth with Gronk trying to change it, but it's all wrong. There has been no public mention of how this is being paid for. There's been speculation that detail costs $160K, right? But there's no indications of who's paying for it or whether the city is getting billed for it so far. But that community note keeps getting put up, and it's just factually incorrect. And Gronk even admits that it was factually incorrect the first time.
What they did, dude, what they're doing is they're saying that, all right, if it's 130 cops and you give them an average at $100 an hour, it'll roughly be about $130,000. So, hey, let's just throw another $30,000 on top of it. That is not accurate at all, by the way. It costs the city way more money than $100 an hour cop. So I just, so not to cut you off, but keep going. What were you saying? But that's what they did. It was thrown together slop. No,
I'm just pointing out that it's like it's a campaign to fool us into all thinking that this isn't an issue. And I think because, you know, whether you're a fan of Taylor Swift or not, that's not the issue. The issue here is that New York City is in a fiscal crunch right now, and she's a billionaire. She can pony up. She can pony up $100 million for this, to have a gigantic wedding on some island or wherever, to pay for this if she wanted, and that would be a drop in the bucket of both their net worths and her long-term net worth. Okay, this is a woman who's going to be making hundreds of $1,000,000 just
And
through
royalties.
her catalog of music, which she now owns, you know, going forward. So the point is that New York City, we're in a fiscal crunch. We should not, the citizens and residents of New York should not be paying for this.
You know, because it's again, it's a humiliation ritual. Dude, and even if she was ponying it up, was shutting down the entire city on
Yes.
July 4th weekend
Great
in the
point.
middle of a historic heat wave, and you're having cops standing outside for ungodly hours in ungodly temperatures in full polyester uniform, wearing full equipment with I mean, if anyone ever wants to know what it's like to be tortured, put on a police uniform, go out in 100-degree weather, stand there for 16 hours wearing a bulletproof vest, where as you stand there in this stupid polyester 8-point dress uniform cap on, and you're not allowed to show that you have water bottles or any type of drink, and you got to wear your hat at all times. Have someone stand out there in the blistering sun and the blistering heat for 14 hours and feel the sweat just run down your body under the body armor. I mean, dude, it's amazing, like, what my back used to look like when I was a cop as opposed to what my back looks like now when I'm no longer a cop. Like, my back used to just be disgusting to look at because you would break out. I don't care. Like, you would break out everywhere and rash everywhere all summer from wearing that vest. And to now that, like, I don't wear that vest, my back is perfectly clear. And my wife always says that. She's like, I can't believe what your back always looked like as opposed to what it looks like now. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not standing out all summer long, dripping sweat down my back and my chest all day long. You know what I mean? And ungodly temperatures. So to me, I think it's a real slap in the face. It's honestly, nobody cares about your stupid wedding. Nobody's even invited to it. That's the other thing. And it's a completely private event. We're shutting down Penn Station for a private event, and taxpayers are funding this. And the other thing that's happening is all of these charities now, he donated, apparently, what Vanity is reporting is that they donated $23 million to certain charities, including like a police and widows fund, right? And I'm like, so that's okay. That makes up for all of the money. And people are so stupid that they're all celebrating it. They're like, oh yeah, no, they gave all this money. It's like, dude, that is a tax write-off. They got $23 million in tax write-offs. That's what they did. That's not paying for anything. That's actually benefiting them. They're taking a huge benefit. One, it looks great publicly. Two, that's $26 million in taxes that they don't have to pay. It's a huge write-off. So, like, what do you think? Like, and look, I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it, and I'm not saying that I wouldn't donate money in that situation too. Why not donate the money and get the write-off? But don't sit there and be like, no, it's okay that we're going to pay $100 million to host this event. We're going to shut the city down, and we're going to do all this stuff because, hey, she invited the starting five of the New York Knicks, and they donated some money to charity for a tax write-off. Come on, smart enough.
Yeah. So this is the tweet. So keep in mind, guys, Gronk is Twitter, or X is their AI. Okay, and this was the original tweet by Representative Nicole Malliotakis of Staten Island, right? So this is her tweet, and this community note popped up after her tweet. Okay, and it was incorrect, and Gronk pointed out. Gronk admitted that is factually incorrect when I pointed it out. And later on, this was changed to another community note, which talked about paid detail. And I pointed out how this is not paid detail, and that paid detail does not do barrier details, no traffic control, nor perimeter security on that scale. And again, Gronk admitted that it's incorrect. And the original community note was then returned back onto the post again.
Could you read it, dude? Could you read what happened? Because like we can't see it.
Yeah. Let me put up the other one, which has the put up the other one, which has a more zoomed in. So this is. Can you read this?
Yep.
Yeah. So this is Gronk saying you're right. The community note overreaches. Public reports confirm 130 offices and 116 projected costs for the MSG events, with the people expected to cover overtime, but no verified records or CNN piece explicitly state the city is formally billing them yet. Details on exact payment remain unclear publicly. There has been no public detail on who's paying for this right now. Now, I get that events at the Garden, like regular events at the Garden, including annual concerts and performances and whatnot, right, happen at the Garden. And they are important to the ecosystem of a city, because whether we like it or not, there's a whole ecosystem that gets built up around teams and stadiums. And that ecosystem includes bars, restaurants, and other sorts of businesses. So I get that. I understand why, we could never just get rid of the Garden. We need that there. There are businesses that get built up around it, right? But are you telling me that Taylor Swift's wedding there is now bringing in enough revenue to the ecosystem around MSG to justify the amount of costs and the manpower resources that are being spent on it right now? Are you telling me that it's going to pull in revenue to justify this?
Well, again, they're going to go back to the same posture they had during their inability to control what was occurring after each night of the Knicks games. And Dolan himself criticized it. James Dolan, that owns the Garden, he criticized it and he said, "You're harming all of the businesses around the area by shutting this down. And this frozen zone is going to be even larger than that." So that is wild. Could you do me a favor? Could you pull that down? So, but you shouldn't worry about it, Marlon, at all. And, I think, don't get blackpilled, because they've actually been planning for all of this for over 2 years. And you got to listen to how brilliant their plan is. So don't worry about what happened after the Knicks games, because this weekend's going to be fine. We had to tell you how safe how much history has been made, but everything should be fine. Everything's good. They've been 2 years in planning, and this is a very complex plan, people. So, try to stay with it.
Just on the uniform members. So I'm not going to give specifics, but I will tell you this. Like the mayor said, like the police commissioner said, we've been planning for this for 2 years. There will be every New York City police officer that's available will be working the long weekends. They will be out there, and they are going to make this the best July 4th weekend there is. Thank you.
Ever in history. So for 2 years of planning, and we came up with every cop has to work, and it's going to be another shit show. Sounds like a real great plan.
Yeah, the plan is to throw more cops at it. That's the plan. And if you've been planning for so long, why? I mean, nobody could have told Taylor that this is not now's not the right time for this at MSG. Yeah. Why is this even I just don't understand, considering all the issues that are going on, including like the backlog of 911 jobs, right? Why we have this going on in the middle of such a big, congested, and busy city as New York. I mean, we couldn't find these rich guys couldn't find an island somewhere to do it. I mean,
well, somebody said it on here. They're not even from New York. What the hell are you having it in the Garden for?
Yeah.
Like, what is that?
I'm totally confused by why this is happening in New York City right now. And like I told you guys before, where's that budget exactly for 2027? Could we get those details already?
It's unbelievable. Yeah. Chief Lukash says Tim Bodette is going to announce the wedding via megaphone outside for the spectators. I mean, dude, you know, I had to edit my tweet this morning about it because I was gonna say, tell me you're willing to take it in all your available holes without telling me you're willing to take it in all your available holes. Like because and I was like, all right, I don't feel, you know, I want to start the weekend off right, you know, I don't want to get yelled at. But like that's what it is. I mean, it's pathetic, dude. Like honestly, it's honestly, I'm like, there's just certain things I won't do for money, and that's one of them. You know what I mean? I will not humiliate myself for money. It makes no sense. I've got offered a lot of things in the last couple of years, and I was like, no, thank you, no, thank you, no, thank you. TV shows, stupid reality shows. I'm like, no, absolutely not. Wrong guy. Wrong guy. Timmy, I'll send those producers over to your way. You know, not me. My holes are not open.
Yeah. So keep in mind that that venue wasn't supposed to be the original venue, right? This is what the news are reporting. The original venue was supposed to be here in Rhode Island. It's another venue in Rhode Island resort. They call it the Ocean House, but as you can see, it's a massive facility.
Makes sense.
You know,
Go
by the
there, all
water.
you fancy people.
Yeah. Instead of doing this, though, we're gonna have it in the middle of Manhattan. And their reasoning for not having it here was security. Okay, because they couldn't get it adequate security. So instead of having to find the manpower to secure this, we now have the city of New York to do it for you. Okay.
They couldn't find. What do you mean? Like, so then that, you know what, Marlon? Let's start a security company. You couldn't find adequate security to keep you guys safe there. Then there's a huge problem in the security industry. Then it's not just law enforcement, because that should be the easiest thing to secure right there, and it would be way cheaper than trying to secure a facility in the middle of Manhattan on 34th and 8th, Rhode Island, which is like an enclave in itself. Like, who the hell is even going over there? That should be much easier. That should be much easier, and you'll be able to work with local authorities much easier. That's ridiculous. You guys got a problem with security? Hit us up on the Finance Unfiltered, you know? Maybe we'll be a little nicer to you on the next one.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, John. The problem is it's not way cheaper. Nothing is cheaper than if the city is covering it, right?
Absolutely.
The city, you know, because now the city is covering it. You know, you don't have to worry about tabloids or paparazzi finding a way to go in and take pictures now, because NYPD is doing the security for you, and there isn't, regardless of which private security firm you're getting to cover it, you ain't gonna do better than the actual police department or the actual law enforcement arm of the city of New York. Okay, you ain't gonna do better than that.
So do you think all the days in advance, like this, even just the barrier setup, do you think they like when they put out that $160,000 number, nobody thought about any of the, like, this is all the cops getting ready, setting up the barriers all around the Garden, Penn Station, blocking off all of the areas in the frozen zone. Like, nobody put these costs in them, because it's like, hey, we'll just put together right at that moment in time, in that minute. I mean, this was yesterday. So we've been planning for days. You know, this is all these guys here are cops. This is good overtime. This is like barrier overtime. You go there, you work and putting barriers out, you know, and you're getting paid. You're getting paid to do it. So, I mean, I've done that a lot, usually on the midnights prior to events. You know, but nobody takes that into account, that all these guys are on overtime just dropping barriers, you know. And all of how much that is. So you're right. You're absolutely right, Marlon, because all of that setup would need to be done in Rhode Island too, and you'd be paying for it.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And the kind of manpower you would need for that, considering the invite list is supposed to be at 1,000 people. Now, I don't even know how she has 1,000 close friends to show up at a wedding. By the way, it's
No,
like
she's a Knicks
over.
fan now all of a sudden, and so she invited the starting 5, none of the bench players, but like Hart and Brunson, of course, because, they've been in the papers.
Yeah. 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 So you got 1,000 friends and family that show up at your wedding. Talk about overindulgence, But anyway, the point that we're trying to make here is that if we're devoting resources to this, then where are we going to get the money for the pension funds? And keep in mind, the city already owes the funds $39 billion by the 2032. So if you have a bill due, right? You have a large payment coming up for your car, you have your mortgage coming up, then what do most people do? Well, you know what? We're not going to dinner tonight, We're going to stay home for the weekend. We're not taking that trip that we wanted to this summer because we got bills due, right? So you have a large bill due in 2032, but instead of being fiscally prudent, we're saying that we can cover the costs of a billionaire's wedding in the middle of Manhattan, right? This is amongst the other ridiculous spending that the unions should all be pointing out, because in the end, it's going to be the unions who are going to be begging for government bailout. They're going to be begging the feds for a bailout when the city cannot produce this money in the 2030s. Okay. But instead of doing that now, we're all silent.
Mall and TMZ just dropped the slaves, the NYPD cops. They're not allowed to have phones inside Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's wedding. So, starting 5 of the Knicks. I'm sure Josh Hart's going to have his phone. But, you're an NYPD cop, you plebs, you are not allowed to have your phone. Don't you dare. How does that work when where they're required to have their phone to operate? How does that work? But I'm sure the Nepo babies, Mondani and Tish apply. It's just amazing. And like, where are all the socialists? How come the socialists aren't outraged by this? They're only outraged when it comes to cop overtime or cop parking. No one cares that this billionaire is coming in and this is like the let them eat cake shit. Like, oh no, you guys are going to work the detail, but no one can have phones. Like, what?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. Ridiculous. And here's the other thing that came out, right? And I think this is big because this happened already. It already happened 6 months ago with the holiday pay, right? In the winter. Now, Mondani delays NYPD cops' holiday pay ahead of the 4th of July as the finest pull 12-hour shifts for busy weekend. So I think this should have already been corrected from the last time. And you know what the unions did last time? Zip. And they were just hoping if they stay quiet, maybe we'll get something good. Maybe we're going to get something good. And guess what? You know what you got? You got it again where they're delaying the pension payment. And I don't know, dude. I'm not like fiscally in tuned and I'm not really up on why this happened. But why do you think this happened, Marlon? I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Well, I agree with a certain former co-host of former show host on this network this time that this is probably due to them wanting to wait until the next fiscal year budget to put it in. I think that's probably why they wanted to do it. But I think it's curious that it happened twice, and you really have to wonder what's going on. Keep in mind, you have to wonder what's going on because I've seen reports saying that the $92 million budgeted for overtime is going to be dried up by the end of this week, by the end of the 4th of July weekend. And keep in mind that $92 million is supposed to be for the whole entire summertime. right? And I've also seen other reports in the papers. I mentioned it last on Wednesday that the cash flow is going to be dried up by November. The city's cash flow. So you really have to wonder about that.
I still say they're already over budget. They're completely lying.
I agree. I mean, well, if they're not over budgeted now, they damn sure will be by September when we get Juve. You got the West Indian Day Parade, and isn't the UN in August too? Is that or rather September?
None of this, dude. September, dude. None of this was budgeted. Like this is a huge problem. But don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, because the Detectives Endowment Association president, Scott Moreau, and his coalition solved it. So the cops are going to get their holiday pay in time. Detectives Endowment Association put this out yesterday. They put update. Holiday pay delay corrected. All right. So make sure you're not listening to this fake news podcast right now, because this is what came out yesterday. When the city tried to delay holiday pay for NYPD detectives, the DEA fought back immediately. Because of the DEA's swift action and beginning the procedure of an official grievance, the union has been notified that holiday pay will be included in the second paycheck in July, not delayed. No one fights harder for the NYPD detectives than the DEA. First of all, that grievance to officially go through all the channels will take till when the hell they were going to pay you anyway. So that's one. So, but Monroe has declared victory. The Monroe brand has declared victory. They push back, even though they didn't push back last time. And even though it supposedly was going to happen again, everybody was notified that it was going to happen, right? So he declared victory. The problem is again, somebody's lying. Because an hour after Scott Monroe put this out, Patrick Hendry of the Patrolmen's Benevolent Association put out update on the holiday pay issue. Since the filing of the PBA's grievance yesterday, so they're saying, well, we actually did file a grievance. We've been in communication with the NYPD leadership throughout the night and into this morning as they work to correct the issue with the city's payroll office. We will update members once a resolution is officially confirmed. PBA President Patrick Hendry said, "We appreciate the police commissioner and her team working with us to fix this. But somebody in City Hall still owes us an explanation of what happened and how they are fixing it, and they are going to prevent it again from happening in the future." So, very strange. Sounds like it is not corrected at all. It sounds like Hendry again fluffing the pillow for Jessica Tisch, when honestly, it really isn't her fault. It is coming from City Hall. And I don't think the grievance does anything. And like I said, by the time the grievance actually officially goes through, you'll receive the money anyway in a delayed manner. And so I don't know. I think they're just looking to get ahead of everything. But let's see. I'm curious, because if in fact cops do not get that holiday pay the second week in July, as the old saying goes, Scott Monroe is really going to have egg on his face again.
Yeah. So this is, keep in mind now that, what's also curious about this is that the mayor, that Mamdani was trying to delay payments to some of these NGOs and community groups, So it's very, very curious what's happening. You have to really wonder what's going on behind the scenes. Now, the report I was talking about also comes from NBC, that they said the cash crunch, the cash balance will hit a seasonal low of $3 billion by late November, driven by the high municipal expenditures and payroll costs, right? So it's very curious what's happening.
Yeah, and anything else on the pension or anything before we start to wrap up? There's just one other point I want to just make about what the NYPD officers are facing and the incompetence of the NYPD leadership, management, and City Hall.
Yeah, no more points. The point is, guys, if you don't understand why this is connected to Taylor Swift's wedding, the point is that we have major bills coming up, for major payments due, and those payments include pension payments. Okay, you have a city that's cash strapped right now, and because we're cash strapped, we should not be continuing irresponsible spending. Okay, we should not be allocating manpower and police government resources to private interests that do not benefit the long-term health of the city. Okay, this should not be paid for by the city of New York. It should be paid for by the billionaires who themselves decided to have an overindulgent event at MSG. That's the point.
Yeah. So last thing before we go, and just before we go, we got almost close to 500 people, about 440 people in the chat today. For those of you, I apologize. I really wasn't able. I'm not in my usual setup, and I'll be back in the 124 room on Monday, but not my usual setup today. Like I said, I'm down the Jersey Shore, and so I'm a little discombobulated. So I wasn't able to really go through the chat too good today. But if anybody has anything you want us to read, any questions, obviously go to the super chats. We'll read out after we're done with this. So extreme heat emergency has been declared by all of government, including our AccuWeather, right? So this came in for Thursday, right? Extreme heat warning effect yesterday, right? Through 9 p.m. Saturday. Air quality alert from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. today. That was yesterday. So what they said for yesterday was hazy, sunshine, extremely hot, excessively humid, high near record of 100, set in 1966. 66. AccuWeather real field temperatures may exceed 110. Tonight, uncomfortably warm. Tomorrow remains dangerously hot and humid with sunshine and some clouds. Chance of late thunderstorms. High again near 100 record. 103 set in 1966. Real feel 105 and 110. NYPD cops are working in this again outdoors, full uniform, 50 pounds of equipment, hats on, gun belts on. I mean, it's really extreme, absolutely extreme temperatures. And the NYPD has never put in, they have restrictions for horses, they have restrictions for dogs, they have restrictions for the drones, for their stupid robots. They have restrictions for every other city worker out there. And they put other things in place when there are heat advisories. But when it comes to NYPD cops, there's nothing like that. Mike LaPetrie's asked about this by Marcia Kramer. Listen to his response. They're obviously going to be working 12 to 16-hour tours every day, including their RDOs, on no sleep. They've been working like animals this entire time. Not in one PP, not in the halls, not sleeping in their office, not any of that stuff. They've been working like absolute animals, not home with their family. They're physically and mentally deteriorating. And this is the response now that they have to deal with the Taylor Swift wedding on top of that. Listen to what Marcia Kramer asked him. Well, you're not going to hear what she asked him, but she asked him, was there any precautions put in place for NYPD cops who will be working outdoors for extended periods in these extreme temperatures?
Is it starting?
Oh shit! I didn't put it up.
Yeah, no, it didn't come up.
Apologies, people. Apologies. So here it is. He is LaPetrie. Now he's answering Marcia's question. Did you put any precautions in place for NYPD cops?
Yeah, so actually, we had a meeting with the bureau chiefs and the deputy commissioners this morning specifically about the weather in also regards to the police officers. So obviously it's hydrate, it's, supervision, making sure that they're taking their personals and hydrating and things of that nature. But we are very much aware of also the dangers for the police officers being out there for a lot of hours on foot. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
So we're aware, but they're still going to maintain their regular uniform. They're still only going to get their 3 short breaks. They're still not allowed to have bottles of water out there, but we're telling them to, of course, stay hydrated. And all of the people that have been getting notified for details are being told that they could only take personals on certain time frames, their personals, those 2 20-minute personals on top of the meal. I just think, it's really outdated, dude. And everyone's like, that's always been the case. Okay, so that means that we should continue doing it. I mean, we haven't evolved. We've evolved in every other area. You're not going to evolve in this area, and people die in the heat, dude. People die in the heat all the time. We had a recruit die in the heat. Supposed to be the youngest, healthiest point in his life, and now you're going to put these people out there. And honestly, I know cops risk their life every day. But if you start to feel lightheaded, if you start to feel dizzy and you're working and you're out there an extended period and you're not able to get yourself into proper air condition and properly cool down, call an ambulance, go to the hospital. Your life is not worth anything. Your life is not worth not having a sergeant do some paperwork or a lieutenant do some paperwork. Because clearly they don't care about you, because when his real answer was, what are you going to do for the cops and working these extreme weather? His real answer, in my opinion, is zip, zero, nothing, the usual. We're not going to do anything, nothing different. We're going to operate just as is. We're aware that this is dangerous, but cops are resilient.
Yeah. What's curious about this is that Mamdani himself, he said he views climate change as an existential threat to humans. So if you were so concerned about stuff like that, then wouldn't you be concerned about the health of people who have to work in extreme heat right now? I always point out how these guys, their beliefs just aren't consistent. Even when their belief system is flawed, I should expect you to have some consistency with that. If you believe it, then your policy should all be consistent, but it's not. Even your own misguided beliefs are flawed. So anyway, tangent, right? But I think I don't. It's obvious they don't have a plan for any of this, But I will give them a break on this and say that cops should be adults, right? You guys should be adults to know when you need to get into the shade, or when you should get a bottle of water and stay hydrated and stay cool without the job having to come down with some stupid order. Because when the job does come down with an order for this, it'll be stupid and impractical. And I think you guys should be. Oh, did you freeze, John? You froze for a second.
I think it was me. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. It was me.
Yeah. So I'm going to do a little pushback on this and say that even though we know they don't have a plan, that the real plan should come from you guys out there, because and not wait for the job to think of some stupid idea that's impractical anyway. But
totally agree with you. Vaughn, totally agree with you. We're kind of running late. We got to get to these super chats, but just real quick, dude. I'm just saying, real simple. Modify the uniform during extreme temperatures. There should already be a modified uniform for the summer. And I'm just saying there should be some additional personals. I'm not saying that they need to be babied totally. I'm just saying, like, you're making accommodations for everybody else and possibly having cooling centers near where these cops are working, or somewhere they could go, or just ensuring that they're allowed to do 1 in, 1 out in air conditioned vehicles, something like that. Like, nothing. I'm not saying anything crazy, right? We work in all temperatures and all weathers. I'm just saying, like, we can't even do that. It's something slight. Like, what do you think about that?
No, we can't. This is a larger problem with the entire Western world and America, where we're like I said before, we're in the stupidest timeline. We're run by idiots who don't think long term and they don't think about these things. Whereas you have a place like China who, you know, you can criticize them all you want about certain things, and we do, like freedom and the rights of people there. But you got to give them a hand for thinking about things like keeping your cities cool during heat waves. And our cities do not have anything like that. Our government are not thinking of anything along these lines.
What are they
So with
doing? Are
that
they
said,
misting the city? What is that?
yeah, they are. Yeah, yeah.
Those are big misters?
Yes, yes. So
Wow.
keep things cool. And this is why the America and the West, we're like the third world now, bro. You know. And with
Wow.
that said, you shouldn't expect an actual plan from people like LaPetria and the department, because look, our government at large doesn't have a plan to keep the cities cool. Let alone its workers. We're the third world country now, bro. Well,
wow. All right, let's get to the super chats. You got anything before we go?
No. I think we can move on to super chats.
All right, let's do it. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us this morning. Now it's time for the Q&A and statements. Here we go. We got Staten Guy 321. He says, notice how this summer, according to the job, all of a sudden the Bronx and Brooklyn North don't need help. I don't know, bro, but I'll tell you right now, I heard about the whole split in the Bronx. I heard it's a complete, absolute disaster. Not going according to plan. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, so just an update for you civilians. Keep in mind, our Bronx is now being split into two larger commands. Okay, the headquarters of the Bronx are now split into two. So, and with that, Tish promised 200 additional cops for the Bronx. The problem here is, as we already outlined earlier, is that there's not enough cops, and with no new classes, they can't account for attrition from this year alone. So even though Tish might have taken 200 cops from other parts of the cities and now put it into Bronx, what happens by the end of the year with the retirements? We're back to the same numbers we were before they split up the Bronx. So,
yeah. What do we got? We got Cobbs 3506. He says these DSA fucks are vermin, completely evil automatons. I'm gonna say again, I don't see a difference. I think I'm just gonna call them what they are, the Democrats. It is what it is. That is the Democratic Party today. Modern Samurai says, great show, guys. Stay safe during the 4th. God bless America. 250 years strong. God bless you guys and everyone in the chat. Get well sooner, Eric. Like, subscribe, and join the chat. 286K strong. Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Yeah, I hope everybody, I follow up those sentiments. I hope everybody has a safe, happy 4th. Thankful for the country that we live in and the freedoms that we have. We got our problems, but not anything we can't fix through it. Chronicle says, I promise to not get angry, John, so long as you don't call me bro. Sorry, bro. You're not going to happen. It's better than cuz, what do we got? Dog 29 J51. He says, sending MOS out of borough on straight time to save pennies. Dude, they got big problems, bro. They're gonna look to crunch the only agency that they know how to crunch on, and it's the NYPD, unfortunately. And even that, they fail miserably. So, and then you got Staten Guy. He says he wouldn't be surprised if he asked Taylor Swift to come here. All he wants is viral Gen Z praise laid on so thick now. The unions are truly evil and lazy people. They signed up for this. Routine is getting so old. So I think what Staten Guy is saying is that he wouldn't be surprised if Mondani asked Swift to have it here. What do you think, Mont?
I agree. And do you think Mondani got an invite? Because of course he did.
Of course he did. And I'm sure Hassan Piker got a nice invite too, and a couple other DSA buddies.
Yep.
Yeah. And Kathy Hochul, and you know who else probably got a nice invite? Oh, do you know her name? I know it. It's called NYPD Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
Yep.
Right? Staten Guy says they're doing all out this overtime, so next year they can say we blew the cops' budget. It's set up to abolish no new cops, no rulers, no rules, never see your family, promote only bootlickers, and yes, men. Yeah, that's what it is. 100%. We blew the budget. The cops are evil. You know, NYPD overtime is the biggest problem in New York City. You know, and cop parking. You know, that's another big problem. Anthony says, Mayor flip-flopping on cop issues and manpower so quickly just shows how indebted he is to his DSA handlers. They are rapidly gaining power in the city. You know, I don't even think it is that, dude. Honestly, the DSA platform is the Democratic platform. So I don't think it's not the DSA. They're already in control. The Democrat is a one-party controlled. New York is a one-party controlled state, and it is the Democrats that control it. And yes, it is on the top of that power structure is the DSA.
Yeah, just to follow up on that, there's two DSAs. There's the low information, misinformed people on the street who are being used as puppets by the establishment DSA. What I mean is the umbrella DSA are just a repackaging of Democrats, right? Rich, wealthy elites. Okay, it's just a repackage. Problem is the actual DSA people on the street, the actual socialists on the street, are populist, or they're populism on the left, and they get used by the establishment because the establishment, as I said before, hijacks the movement. Just like on the right, you have establishment MAGA, and then you have grassroots MAGA. And grassroots MAGA, the movement which stemmed out of the Tea Party, was hijacked by mainstream MAGA, which is rich MAGA, and it's not true MAGA. Okay, so it's the same thing on both sides. It's these grassroots movement, or right or wrong. You could agree or disagree with the leftists and the socialists. The issue is that it's grassroots and it threatens the establishment. So what the establishment does is they fund what looks like the face of these movements, but in reality, it hijacks the energy from it and sucks the energy out of the room. So there's no real change. It's just repackaged, the same old repackaged to look like it's grassroots.
Dog says, in Brooklyn Transit, 16 people are in the first platoon. Take away one squad and audio, add details, etc. Can you expect to actually give the real numbers? You know, no. And then, you know, and a friend also said the same thing to me, like basically saying, like, you know, the overtime, they're using the overtime to compensate for the lack of manpower, essentially counting one cop as two, and even this summer it looks like counting them as three by having them work so much, you know. Jack Greco says, from Stephen Bishop Lee and the boys, we're still waiting for that 3-on-3 pickup game, John. Look, I'm still down. I could still play a little while longer. I'm going to be 46 this summer, but I guarantee I'll school anybody right now. Bring them on. You know, I don't know if in 3 years. I don't know. Right now, maybe. We got Nolan. Nolan, what do you got? He says, John, do you have extra latex gloves? Ron is coming to visit us down the shore, and he insists that we wear them when we put sunblock SP100 on him. Such a diva. I don't know what you guys are doing there, Nolan. But I don't know. I'm going to make sure you guys aren't anywhere on the beach that I'm at, because if you are, I'm moving. I see anybody with latex gloves on, I'm calling the police. I'm just letting you know right there. Calling the cops on you. I did see someone with a mask though, so that's very important when you're down the shore. You know, make sure you don't get any of that fresh ocean air, and you know, keep the mask on. Nolan, he's saying a name that I can't read. I'm sorry. It looks like Chinese to me. I don't know what name that is. Was on some other podcast claiming that, I don't know that other name either. I can't read that. It must be Asian. Is being hacked by somebody he calls the Sakiman. What is that about? I have no idea. I don't watch.
Soccer mom.
I don't know. I don't never heard of it. I don't know who that is. I don't know. I don't know. I listen. I don't know. People get hacked. It is what it is. Yeah. We've been hacked. You guys seen it in real time and live. I don't know. Who else we got? We got Cobbs. The job goes to insane lengths to provide free security to celebrities. However, you have seen so many dirtbag entertainers get full intel packages New Year's Eve. Completely disgraceful.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
True.
And that's exactly a great terminology for them. Dirtbags, right? Drug addicts, sexual abusers, skells. Yeah. And then we're gonna treat them like they're somebody special, you know.
Epstein club members,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think last thing, Mon Samurai got something for you. I love that you buy into Chinese propaganda, Chinese shows. You only want China's massive country. So a couple of sprinklers on buildings isn't solving shit there. So stop.
Yeah. The reason why I started that so I could respond to that is I get that a lot anytime I mention China on social media. Oh, you're buying into propaganda. Oh, you love the Chinese. No, I bring up China because America has to compete with China on the international scale. We can criticize them all day long about freedom and rights and all that. The point here is that you have to compete with them now. So if you have cities in America that look like third world cities where blackouts are being threatened when we're supposed to be a first world country, meanwhile China is building up the infrastructure and they have things like that on their buildings, you have a problem. Because now, keep in mind, now you don't even make anything in this country. So everything you buy, those fancy electronics, that fancy smartphone you carry around in your pocket, that's not built in America. That's built in China. So I'm not buying into any propaganda. I'm pointing out China because you got to compete with those. Okay, those water cannons and those sprinklers may not be the whole of China, but do you have any of that in any of our cities? Do you have any of that in our cities that get hot and go through heat waves every year? No, you don't, because our politicians and our elites aren't thinking about that, whereas they are. And you have to compete against them. So unless you want to live in a third world country with degraded quality of life, you want to live in a shithole, then
I hear what you're saying, Maul. You're saying that the technology is getting up to speed, and that goes for a lot of places, roadways too. It doesn't mean that their style of government's better. It's just pointing out the technology and the thought process is there, So no big deal. But let's not get into this China debate because it's not worth it. Last one, and anyway, we're way too late. We should have been off 20 minutes ago. All right, in Transit District 23, no RMPs vans to Taylor's wedding. Insane. In Transit District 23, no RMPs or vans to Taylor's wedding. Oh, so in TD 23, you guys aren't even getting assigned cars. Get there on your own, plebs. You can't park anywhere near it. Cars can't be anywhere there. Use your own car, and go stand outside and sweat your ass off while all the fancy people are inside partying in their nice air-conditioned 68 comfortable degrees inside of Madison Square Garden. Absolutely disgraceful. Look, I hope everybody has a happy 4th. More anything else? Don't go on a China tangent. What do we got?
No, we're actually only 10 minutes late. It's so as of right now, exactly. No, but again, thank you guys for joining us. A little shorter today, but we'll be back on Monday with more more things to talk about. So until then, have a great weekend, and if you're out there in the heat, stay cool and hydrate and be smart about it. Okay. So have a great weekend and have a great 4th of July.
Yeah, absolutely. God bless everyone. Chronicles, take it easy. All right. Take it easy. Put the AK away, homie. All right. And anyway, I kind of enjoy Nolan's trolling. So if you want to troll, you're welcome. So but seriously, have a great weekend, everybody. Have a safe weekend, and that's it. We hope to see all you guys Monday. We'll be back at you, and that's it. That's it. We'll hopefully Eric will be back sooner than later. So happy 4th, everyone. Have a great, safe weekend. Take care.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. 175 years, you think they know the drill. Planning every detail, nah, they're winging it still. Got a million uniforms, radios on blast, but somehow every operation's built at the last. Finest message 1 says, everybody go left. Finest message 2 says, actually, that's incorrect. Amendment to the amendment, then another one drops. By sunrise, nobody knows where the confusion stops. They call it a detail, we call it a guess. Everybody's asking, who's running this mess? Maps keep changing, posts rearranged by the 4th revision. Nothing stays the same. Commissioner said a month ago, 12-hour tours all week. 4th of July, World Cup, every cop on their feet. But the schedule, the plan, the actual assignment dropped 1 day before, like perfect timing. It's all made up, everybody knows. Different set of rules depending how the wind blows. No excusals, echoes through the halls. Unless you're close to chiefs, then the policy stalls. Nick's parade, we survived that ride. Pride March, hold on tight. Every lesson learned somehow disappears. See you at the next one. Same chaos, different year. Every bad idea starts with, but the chief said. Another finest buzzes, please disregard the last. Then another one will rise before you read it fast. Reply all, don't read twice, good luck. Welcome to the world's biggest game of what the Chief O'Hare got no life. Making calls past 3, acting like the whole NYPD is his reality TV. 175 years and we're still amazed how every new detail ends up amazed. The city's still standing because the cops adapt, not because the plan was ever fully mapped. So here's to the rank that figures it out, making order from confusion without a doubt. When the dust settles, everybody knows the scoop. The best plan in the room is the one the cops improvise on the route. They wanna bury you here, no way. They wanna bury you there. No wonder everyone eligible is calling it a day, because the rules keep changing in every single way. Ay.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?